Hello and welcome back to the Nasty Metal Production Channel here at YouTube. And, yep, I had to do a list like this. If you're gonna at least do, I've been doing at least, a few, good, positive sort of, lists or so, but there are times where you just have to go and do this type of list, and that's the top, 10 worst thrash metal releases, or albums, whatever, but releases, because this could be anything. But while there's mostly albums, there's about only one EP in this list, and I'll definitely get to that EP. And if you at least know or have known me or so, you probably know what that EP might end up being. But we'll get there. So let's definitely waste no more time, and let's actually get into this. And of course, most of these albums in here could probably trigger some. And when you're doing these lists, these type of lists never tend to be as, they never tend to be, very positive towards others, because everyone's taste is different. But if you can handle these opinions or these, type of lists, then hopefully you may have some fun, maybe watching this. I don't know. Hopefully though that you at least hold your tongue a bit, or bite it or so, which you're probably going to end up biting it. So let's definitely get into this list right here. So coming in at number 10. Now this album is definitely low, because probably this album isn't nearly as worst as compared, to most of these albums here. But in terms when it comes to this type of genre of thrash, this isn't really that good when it comes to it. And of course I'm talking about Municipal Waste's Hazardous Mutation. Now yes, surprisingly, this is on the list. Yes, this album has just made the list. I had to. Oh, I had to. But this is, it's not that good of an album. I tried to get into Municipal Waste quite a bit of time. I've tried to. Though mostly I kind of like the really earlier stuff, though, when they were definitely much more of a hardcore punk band. But when they started really doing more thrash stuff, I think they kind of it sounded forced, especially this album. Crossover usually has always been built around, if you're mixing hardcore punk with thrash, or mostly hardcore punk bands that definitely moved into thrash. And you can definitely say the same thing with Municipal Waste. But I think that kind of has them lacking a bit, is I think they lack a bit of that charisma, that sort of real of some of those crossover bands. And if you want a new band, though, that at least has that charisma of some of those older bands, I told you on my last video. There we go. You want a band that actually that has charisma, or the same sort of charisma like the older crossover thrash bands? Dr. Living Dead. This album shits all over Hazardous Mutation, and in comparison, this sound does end up sounding pretty damn terrible in comparison to this. But in terms of some of these albums right on this list or so, it's not nearly as bad, but I don't think it's nearly that good. And I've tried to get into this album. Again, I've tried to get into this, but I just can't. And even the production, and this is the reason why I have issues with most retro thrash bands, is usually the production, I think, robs the album of any of its rawness. And this album, this sound right here again, the production value for this album is very much like the old Nuclear Assault stuff and the old Combat Records stuff. It has that feel, and it gives the album it really gives it that punch that it needs. And maybe if this sound had the production style of, say, the Dr. Living Dead album, maybe this would have been at least a little more enjoyable. But in ways, to me, it doesn't compare. It's not that good of an album in my opinion, but it's not nearly as worse as some of the albums that we're going to be getting into. And, well, except to get into the next one then. So, this isn't really that terrible, but in comparison to some other stuff out there, or stuff within the genre, yeah, this does end up being kind of bad in comparison. So, coming in at number 9, this one, oh boy. Now, surprisingly, this album is low. You'd think this album should be a bit higher up in the list. But that's because this album has already been beaten to death. And you probably should have at least, well, a good idea of what this is. This is, of course, Saint Anger by Metallica. Being released in 2003, this, of course, was considered to be the biggest disappointment of 2003. This was by far, and to this day, this still ends up being considered the worst album Metallica ever released. Now, you say what you will about some of the albums after the Black Album, like Load and Reload, which I don't mind those. They definitely are more on the grungy, alternative rock type of sound, but the thing is, I don't mind that. They weren't, yeah, they're not the thrash stuff. But that doesn't mean that they're bad. No. It only depends on if you're just a fan of that musical style. It depends if you like that stuff, and if you're not, those two albums are definitely not ones, to be kind of, to be into. But Saint Anger, this was an album that was considered, I think the band had said that they definitely were going back to their heavier roots or so, but that's not what really ended up happening. This was a very more experimental album, in a way. It was different, very different in a way. But in terms of that, in terms of experimentation, this really, I don't think they delivered as much as they kind of so promised. Of course, the one big factor for this album was the production. Now, Bob Rock, I think his name was. I can't think, Bob Rock or so. Was, of course, the producer, and technically he could have, normally his stuff with the band from the Black Album or so usually were very clean. They actually at least had some good production, but for some reason on this album, I think with the band's, personal turmoil, I think really affected his production, and I think he really was also going through a tough time because of the issues. Again, if you've never seen the some kind of monster documentary, it really kind of really says why for the production. You can tell that he was having a real tough time trying to get the album to sound at least, as good, I guess you could say, because the album is a muddy mess. It's a fucking muddy mess in terms of the production. It's fucking Lars Ulrich's drum sounds like he's banging on a fucking trash can. It's like he just found 2 trash cans out of his fucking backyard, and he put it in the fucking studio and just say, yes, this is the sound I want. Good God, of course he looked like fucking Limp Bizkit's bitch. Jesus Christ. Good God. The album is definitely not that great. Maybe Bob Rock really did mean to fucking crush Lars Ulrich's foot.
Fix drum wise.
Ow! Don't fucking ever do that again, ever!
And of course, the fans pretty much said, don't ever make this fucking album again. Good God. Coming in at number 8. We're definitely going to be getting there. The worst is yet to come. But coming in at number 8. Now, technically, this album isn't. You can almost consider this album is probably a bit better than Saint Anger. But to be quite honest, this album is almost probably just as bad as Saint Anger. As of course, this fucking Miss Godverlassen. Now I've talked about the sound for a bit, and while this may not be considered the worst thing to ever be released, but in terms of this band's discography, like if you put it next to albums such as Phantasmagoria and the Hangman Tree, this is considered shit. I fucking purchased this damn thing years ago, back in 2012. And while I was very much interested in checking out because I liked the Mist, I liked what they had released. Of course, they were very much a good, Brazilian thrash band. Of course, also known for having Chaco's singer Korg, or Vladimir Korg. And of course, when I got this, technically he's not the singer on this one because he had left. I think he might have went back to Chaco. I have no clue. At this time, when this was released, it was released in 1995. But the singer here, when I first listened to it, I'm gonna be real honest, I laughed. Because I was like, what the fuck? I tried to get into this album in a way, but this is just what, like... This isn't really that great, and this was the last thing that the Mist released. This was in a way, for this to be the last album, you should have just ended on the fucking Hangman Tree then. That was it. You should just fucking change your name to something. I've heard the EP is a lot better, but this album right here, for this to be the last album and third full-length album, good God, why? Of course, the artwork, though, that artwork that I just showed was the flip side artwork. No, the real terrible artwork for this album, of course, is this. What the fuck? Jesus. My God. You know what? I'm gonna make a joke. Obviously, I think this girl right here feels very pissed to be on this artwork. You can tell that she's not real happy. And this is the expression that I think I felt when I listened to the album. This is a fucking expression. Good fucking God. Not happy to be, adorned on that album. Not happy. Ugh. Even that's the same look that I have, that like this is the fucking last album that they ever released. Holy shit. Alright, coming at number 7. Oh my God, here they are back on the list. Oh yeah, they're back a second time. Coming in at number 7 is Metallica's Death Magnetic. Oh my God, this is actually, you'd be thinking this is actually worse than Saint Anger? Well, here's the reason why I think this album is just as... I don't think it's nearly as good as Saint Anger. Here's the thing. Saint Anger was at least trying to do a little something different. It was more of an experimentation thing. This time, like they had promised with Saint Anger that they were going to go back to their roots in a way. Here, they decide to actually go back to the roots, but did it really pay off? Not really. This album, they really did try, I think, too hard to try and recreate something like, Master of Puppets, or even like maybe Injustice for All, maybe. Even there, and of course they threw in a little bit of Black Album here and there, but I think they really failed. Even again, they had failed. They fucking failed. This album really, God damn. This album was just wasn't that great. Of course, while you can say that what made Saint Anger also shitty was because Kirk Hammett didn't have any fucking guitar solos on there. Well, Death Magnetic, there's fucking guitar solos, but they're shit. They're not good guitar solos at all. So it doesn't save the album from being any better than fucking Saint Anger. It doesn't. And what makes it even more terrible is the fact that, again, while Bob Rock isn't the one producing the album, no, they got Rick Rubin. Now, Rick Rubin used to have been a good producer. I like his production work for those Danzig albums. Just the first, those first 3 or maybe 4 maybe. I'm not sure if he did the production work on the 4th Danzig album, but I like that. I like the production work on AC/DC's Ball Breaker. I like that. Even his production work with Slayer, I liked. But, wow. What the hell happened? Now, of course, the Metallica had to have been at least in more better, mental state than they were during the Saint Anger album. They must have been, right? Well, that wasn't enough to fucking save at least the album from at least turning out any better. Good God, a production. Of course, there is, of course, a different mix out there, which is, of course, the Guitar Hero mix, which is a much more cleaner mix. And while clear, but again, that album, the only way to get that is if you download the fucking Guitar Hero mix. But still, what you're still going to end up hearing when you buy the sound is, of course, is just the original mix. That's more available to the public. Therefore, I think the sound end up getting a bit more higher on the list than Saint Anger. But still, both these two albums are not that great. Now, Metallica are not going to be on this list again. No, there's no other Lulu, and of course you're not going to see, Hardwired to Self-Destruct. You're not going to see that, because I actually kind of enjoyed Hardwired to Self-Destruct more so than these 2 Metallica albums. My personal opinion, while that album isn't as good as any of their classic stuff, it will never be as good as their classic stuff, but it was at least a better album compared to these 2 atrocities. Oh boy, coming in at number 6. This is probably gonna, I've seen a lot of people like this album, and this is probably gonna piss you off in a way. But coming in at number 6 is Slayer's Repentless. Wow. I tried as much to kind of, to really stay away from the sound because from what I heard, the song that was teased, it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. It was alright. It was okay. But surprisingly, I think that was the only good track on the album. It was the one that was ended up being teased for. So let me go to that page. Let me go to that one real quick. So here we go. I can't forget what track it is. It had to have been one of the re-recorded single tracks, I think. You know what? I think it was the title track. It had to have been the title track, which was probably the only thing good on the album. The rest, man, how can Slayer come back and release this album? Of course, this was definitely them as much, again, doing what they do best, and that's thrash, but the thing is, the album is just, it's not that great, but it's not, is it the worst thing that they've released? Some will definitely would think that this is the worst thing that they've released. But we'll definitely, and surprisingly, I don't know, fuck it. We'll get there. Man, the title track might have been like again I said, it's probably the only memorable track on this album. Because I went and listened to this album for the first time. I don't remember anything else. Production as well was thin. While it's not as terrible as any of the, as the muddy Metallica albums, but it's still no better. It's still fucking thin. Of course, the drum set doesn't sound like Lars Ulrich banging a fucking trash can. So instead, it sounds like fucking Paul Bostaph got a pair of pencils and just decided to, because he lost his other drumsticks. I was like, well, here's these 2 big pencils. Okay, here's my drumsticks. What the fuck? The whole album is just, I think, is a very boredom. Of course, they also had the reused fucking Atrocity Vendor, which was originally recorded for the fucking World Painted Blood album. Oh God! Again, and even when the singles came out, even I thought the original mix or recordings, I even thought those mixes were not all that great. This is just. So I think Slayer literally lost ideas. They've lost all sort of ideas, and I think they've never really felt as inspired. I know there's people out there that like it. More power to you, but this sound just did nothing for me. Definitely some of the, to me, in their discography, one of the worst sounds they've ever released. Alright, so that's basically the ending from like 10 to 6.